The arrival, the detection alarm music, shattered the quiet of the Catherine. Monitoring station, Commander Zales jerked upright from her seat, her silver eyes widening as the screens before her exploded with warning signals. Red symbols flashed across every display. The automated system screamed about an impossible reading. Something massive had just entered Catherine's space. Zales pressed her clawed hand against the main console. Her heart pounded in her chest. As she reviewed the data, the numbers made no sense. The energy signature was enormous, far larger than any commercial vessel, larger even than most military carriers. She ran the scan again, hoping for an error. The result came back identical. A warship had appeared at the edge of Sector 19, a warship unlike anything in the Catherine fleet. Get me High Command immediately, Zales ordered. Her voice remained steady, despite the fear crawling up her spine. Around her, junior officers rushed to their stations. The peaceful monitoring duty they had enjoyed for years was over. In an instant, within moments, the face of Admiral Corvin appeared on her screen. His scaled features showed irritation at being disturbed. That irritation vanished when he saw Zales's expression. Report, Corvin demanded. Admiral, we have an unidentified capital ship in Sector 19. It appeared without warning, no jump signature, no advanced detection. It simply materialized on our sensors. Corvin's eyes narrowed. What empire does it belong to? Zales hesitated. Her throat felt tight. Admiral, based on the configuration and energy readings, we believe it is human. The color drained from Corvin's face. For 3 long seconds, he said nothing. The silence stretched between them like a physical thing. Every officer in the monitoring station held their breath. Confirm that identification, Corvin finally said. His voice had dropped to barely whisper. We have confirmed it 6 times, Admiral. The design matches human military specifications. The ship registers as a Sentinel-class heavy cruiser according to our intelligence files. Humans only built 20 of these vessels. Each one is capable of destroying an entire planetary defense grid. Corvin closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they held a deep weariness. I will inform the Empress immediately. Maintain constant observation of the vessel. Do not, under any circumstances, take hostile action. Do you understand me, Commander? Yes, Admiral. If that ship fires a single weapon, we will know about it. But we will not provoke them. The last thing this empire needs is a war with humanity. The screen went dark. Zales sat back in her chair, her mind racing. She had heard the stories about humans. Everyone in the galaxy had heard the stories. They were the species that had come from nowhere 20 years ago. They had arrived in space with technology that shocked every established civilization. But it was not their technology that made them feared. It was their nature. Humans came from a death world. Their home planet Earth was a nightmare of extreme weather, deadly predators, and diseases that could wipe out entire populations. Most species would have died on such a world. Humans had thrived. They had climbed to the top of their planet's food chain through sheer determination and intelligence. When they reached space, they brought that same fierce spirit with them. They did not seek permission to explore. They did not ask for guidance from older civilizations. They simply expanded, claiming systems and building colonies with breathtaking speed. The Zelthian consortium had tried to stop them. The Zelthians were an ancient race with powerful fleets. They had controlled their region of space for 5,000 years. When humans entered their territory, the Zelthians demanded they leave. The humans refused. The war lasted exactly 4 months. The Zelthians had superior numbers, they had better shields and more advanced weaponry, but humans fought with a creativity and ruthlessness that shocked the galaxy. They did not follow traditional combat doctrine. They ambushed supply convoys. They infiltrated command stations. They struck at civilian infrastructure to break enemy morale. The Zelthians surrendered after losing 60% of their fleet. They signed a treaty that gave humans everything they wanted. The once proud empire became a shadow of its former self. After that, no one challenged humanity's expansion. Other species watched nervously as humans claimed more systems. They built massive shipyards. They established military outposts. They created an alliance of colonies that stretched across dozens of star systems, but humans mostly kept to themselves. They traded with other species. They signed non-aggression pacts. They seemed content to develop their own territory. For 15 years there had been peace until today. Zaylee watched the human ship on her screen. It hung in space like a sleeping predator. Its hull was dark gray, almost black. Weapon ports lined its sides in neat rows. Point defense systems covered every angle. The vessel radiated power and menace. Why was it here? What did the humans want? News of the human ship spread through the Catherine Empire within hours. Emergency meetings were called. Military forces were recalled from distant postings. Defense stations went on high alert. The Empress herself convened the High Council to discuss the situation. But it was not only the Catherine who reacted. The human ship's appearance sent ripples through the entire galactic community. Other civilizations detected the vessel. Their spy networks reported the news. Within a day, every major power knew that a human warship had entered Catherine's space. Torvani Republic issued a statement calling for calm. The mercantile collective closed several trade routes. As a precaution, the Hive consciousness began moving military assets toward their borders. Everyone remembered what had happened to the Zelthians. Everyone feared they might be next. On the 3rd day, the Catherine Empire attempted contact. A diplomatic vessel approached the human ship slowly, broadcasting messages of peace on all frequencies. The small craft carried Ambassador Valens, the Empire's most experienced negotiator. She had resolved conflicts with a dozen species. Surely she could talk to the humans. The human ship remained silent. It did not respond to any messages. It did not move or react. It simply existed in space, watching and waiting. The diplomatic vessel circled it once, then returned home with no answer. The silence was somehow more frightening than any threat. Commander Zaylee monitored the human ship constantly. She barely slept. She reviewed every sensor reading, searching for clues about the vessel's intentions. Her team worked in shifts, maintaining constant surveillance. On the 5th day, something changed. Commander, one of her officers called out, "The human ship is powering up its communication systems." Zaylee leaned forward. "Are they sending a message?" "Not yet. They appear to be preparing to broadcast on all frequencies, maximum range." This was it. After 5 days of silence, the Humans were finally going to speak. Zales felt her pulse quicken. Whatever they said next would determine the fate of the Empire, perhaps the fate of the entire region. Record everything, she ordered. I want every word documented. The human ship's transmission began. Face appeared on every screen in the monitoring station. It was a human face. Male, middle-aged, with short dark hair and calm brown eyes. He wore a military uniform with insignias that marked him as a captain. This is Captain Marcus Webb of the United Human Coalition. Vessel Righteous Dawn, the human said. His voice was steady and clear. I am transmitting this message to the Kithran Empire and all observing civilizations. We have come to your space for a specific purpose. We have evidence of crimes being committed by the Kithran government, crimes against sentient life, crimes that violate the fundamental principles of justice that humanity holds sacred. Zales felt ice in her veins. What was he talking about? What crimes? Captain Webb continued. We know about the slave operations. We know about the trafficking of sentient beings from newly discovered worlds. We know about the facilities where you hold them. And we know that your government has hidden these activities from the galactic community for over a decade. The monitoring station erupted in chaos. Officers shouted questions. Screens flashed with incoming communications from high command, but Zales could not look away from the human captain's face. Humanity will not stand by while innocent beings suffer, Webb said. We are giving the Kithran Empire one choice. Dismantle your slave trade completely. Release all captive beings. Allow independent inspectors to verify your compliance. You have 7 days to begin this process. He paused. His expression hardened. If you refuse, we will dismantle it ourselves, and we will not ask permission. The transmission ended. Silence fell over the monitoring station. Every officer stared at their screens in shock. The human ship had not come as an invader. It had come as a liberator, or perhaps an executioner. Commander Zales knew that everything had changed. The galaxy had just learned that humanity had a line they would not allow anyone to cross. They would fight for others. They would risk war to protect the helpless, and the Kithran Empire had 7 days to decide if they would face that fight. The message, the Kithran Imperial Palace became a storm of activity within minutes of Captain Webb's transmission. Empress Shirala sat upon her crystalline throne, her 4 arms gripping the armrest with visible tension. Before her stood the entire High Council, their faces showing various shades of fear and anger. Lies, spat General Thorax, the military commander, his scarred face twisted with rage. These humans dare to accuse us with fabricated evidence. We should destroy their ship immediately and start a war we cannot win. Admiral Corvin shot back. Have you forgotten what happened to the Zelthians? The Zelthians were weak, Thorax growled. The Zelthians had twice our fleet strength, Corvin said coldly. They had better technology. They still lost in 4 months. What makes you think we would fare better? Empress Shirala raised one hand for silence. The council immediately stopped arguing. Her silver eyes surveyed each member carefully. She had ruled the Kithran Empire for 30 years. She had expanded their territory. She had made them wealthy. But she had also made choices that others might call questionable. Minister Valen, Empress said quietly, tell me the Truth, do these slave operations exist? The intelligence minister stepped forward. His expression was carefully neutral. Your Majesty, we have conducted resource extraction programs on several primitive worlds. The beings taken were pre-industrial, not recognized as protected species under galactic law. That is not what I asked, Shirala said sharply. Are we trafficking sentient beings? Valen hesitated for only a moment. Yes, Your Majesty, the operations have been profitable. They fund approximately 15% of our military budget. The Empress closed her eyes. She had suspected as much. She had approved the initial programs years ago without examining the details too closely. The Empire needed resources. The expansion required funding, she had told herself. The beings taken were primitive, that they would not be missed. Now humanity had found out and they cared. How did they discover this? Shirala asked. Unknown, Your Majesty. Our security protocols should have been flawless. Humans must have intelligence, capabilities far beyond what we estimated. Across the galaxy, other civilizations were having similar conversations. The Torvani Republic convened an emergency session of their parliament. The Mercantile Collective reviewed their own labor practices. Nervously, the hive consciousness, which had no concept of individual slavery, watched with detached curiosity. But it was the smaller civilizations that reacted most strongly, species that had suffered under the domination of larger empires saw hope in humanity's actions. If humans would fight for unknown primitive beings, perhaps they would protect others as well. Aboard the Righteous Dawn, Captain Marcus Webb stood on the bridge watching the sensor displays. His crew worked quietly around him, monitoring the reactions from across the sector of space. Ships were moving. Communications were flying between governments. The message had hit exactly as intended. Captain, his first officer said, we are receiving a transmission from the Catherine Palace. The Empress wishes to speak with you directly. Marcus nodded. Put her through. The main screen flickered to life. Empress Shirala appeared, her imposing figure filling the display. She looked every bit the powerful ruler she was known to be, but Marcus could see something else in her eyes. Calculation. She was measuring him. Captain Webb, the Empress said, you have made serious accusations against my empire. Accusations that could lead to war. They are not accusations, Your Majesty, Marcus replied calmly. They are facts. We have detailed records, locations of facilities, names of officials involved, financial transactions. We know everything. Shirala's expression did not change. And if I deny these claims, then we will provide our evidence to the Galactic Council. We will broadcast it on every news channel. The entire galaxy will see what your empire has done. Your trading partners will abandon you. Allies will turn away. You will become a pariah state. You would destroy my empire's reputation over unverified claims. Marcus leaned forward slightly. Your Majesty, I watched the recordings. Our intelligence teams recovered. I saw beings locked in cages. I saw families separated. I saw children taken from their parents to be sold as servants. So yes, I will destroy your empire's reputation, and if necessary I will destroy your empire itself. The bridge crew maintained their focus on their stations, but Marcus knew they were listening. They understood what was at Stake, this was not about military conquest, this was about something deeper, something that defined what humanity stood for. Shirala was silent for a long moment. What makes you think humanity has the right to judge other civilizations? We do not claim the right to judge, Marcus said. We claim the responsibility to act. Humans learned hard lessons in our history. We know what happens when good people do nothing. We know the cost of silence in the face of evil. We will not repeat those mistakes. Pretty words, Captain. But words do not change reality. My empire is powerful. We have allies. If you attack us, others will come to our defense, will they? Marcus asked. Let me tell you what we have done over the past 3 days. We sent copies of our evidence to every major civilization in this sector. We showed them what you have been doing. We asked if they would stand beside you knowing the truth. Would you like to know how many pledged their support? Shirala's face tightened. None, Marcus said softly, not a single government was willing to defend your slave operations. Some expressed outrage, others expressed disappointment, but none would fight for you. You stand alone, Your Majesty. The Empress's composure finally cracked. Her hands trembled slightly. You have isolated us. You isolated yourselves. We simply made the truth known. On the Cathar homeworld, protests had already begun. News of the human accusation spread rapidly through the population. Many citizens had been unaware of the slave operations. They were shocked and horrified. Demonstrations formed outside government buildings. Voices called for reform, for justice, for an end to practices that shamed their civilization. The empire's military leaders met in secret. General Thorax argued for immediate attack, destroy the human ship before it could do more damage, but Admiral Corbin presented calculations that silenced the discussion. The Righteous Dawn was positioned perfectly. Any attack would require multiple ships. In the time it took to coordinate an assault, the human vessel could transmit everything it knew, could call for reinforcements, could strike at vulnerable targets. They were trapped. Minister Valen reviewed the intelligence failures that led to this moment. How had humans penetrated their security? He discovered the answer in surveillance footage from one of the slave facilities. A maintenance worker who had been employed for 2 years, a Cathar citizen with perfect credentials, except the citizen did not exist. The identity was fabricated. The worker had been a human agent. Disguise. Humans had walked among them for years, gathering evidence, and no one had noticed. Back aboard the Righteous Dawn, Marcus received updates from Earth Command. 3 more human warships were en route, positioned to arrive in 5 days. The Cathar did not know this yet. That information would be revealed only if necessary. The goal was not to destroy the Empire. The goal was to save the beings trapped in slavery. Captain, the communications officer called. We are receiving transmissions from the primitive worlds where they Cathar conducted their operations. They are thanking us. Some are crying. Marcus felt a tightness in his chest. Those beings did not know what warships were. They did not understand galactic politics. They only knew that someone had finally heard their suffering. Someone had come to help, acknowledge their messages. Marcus said quietly, "Tell them we will not abandon them." Empress Shirala called another council meeting. This time the atmosphere was Different, the anger had faded. Reality had set in. They could not win this confrontation. Fighting would lead to destruction. Refusing would lead to isolation and economic collapse. We must consider our options carefully. The Empress said, the humans have given us 7 days. We must decide how to respond. We could negotiate, suggested Ambassador Valen. Perhaps we can find a compromise. Gradually phase out the operations rather than immediate dismantlement. The humans will not accept delay. Admiral Corvin said, they have made their position clear. This is not a negotiation, it is an ultimatum. Then we surrender our sovereignty, General Thorax said bitterly. We allow aliens to dictate our internal policies. We surrender nothing, the Empress said firmly. We make a choice. We can choose to continue practices that violate sentient rights, or we can choose to evolve to become better than we are. She stood from her throne, her 4 arms spread wide. I have thought deeply about Captain Webb's words. He spoke of human history, of lessons learned. Perhaps we need to learn those same lessons. Perhaps this moment is not our destruction but our opportunity to grow. The council members exchanged uncertain glances. Your Majesty, Valen said carefully, are you suggesting we comply with human demands? I am suggesting we do what is right, Shirala said, not because humans force us, but because it is right. We have built our prosperity on suffering. That ends now. 2 days later, Empress Shirala sent her response. She appeared in a galactic broadcast, her image transmitted to every corner of known space. She acknowledged the slave operations. She took responsibility. She announced immediate reforms. All captive beings would be freed. Facilities would be dismantled. Officials responsible would face justice. Independent observers would verify compliance. The galaxy watched in shock. The Cathar Empire, proud and powerful, had bowed to human demands, but Shirala's words were not those of defeat. She spoke of growth, of evolution, of choosing a better path. Captain Marcus Webb received the transmission aboard the Righteous Dawn. He listened to every word. When it ended, he allowed himself a small smile. Send a message to the Empress, he ordered. Tell her that humanity acknowledges her courage. Tell her we will provide assistance with the transition, and tell her that she has earned our respect. The crisis ended without a single shot fired. The human warship remained in Cathar space for 30 days, monitoring the dismantlement of the slave operations. Representatives from neutral civilizations arrived to serve as inspectors. The captive beings were returned to their worlds with resources to rebuild. Across the galaxy, other civilizations examined their own practices. Some reformed quietly, others resisted, but they all knew that humanity was watching, that someone would stand up for those who could not defend themselves. The Righteous Dawn finally departed Cathar space after completing its mission. As it jumped to faster than light travel, leaving the Empire behind, Marcus stood on the bridge looking at the stars. His crew had performed perfectly. They had delivered their message. They had changed the galaxy without firing a weapon. That was the true power of humanity, not the ships, not the weapons, but the willingness to stand for something greater than themselves, to fight for others, to refuse to accept injustice, and the galaxy would never forget it.